We should all go watch Air Bud. Because he is the bud of the air. You know, I've actually never seen Air Bud. Is it any good? I have no clue if it's any good. Air Bud. Is it, I mean, apparently, ooh, we're losing some ground here. Okay. But yeah, Air Bud. Is that movie any good? I have no clue. Oh, I don't like doing that one over there. Not with this ship. Let's go do this. For a kids movie, it's okay. Oh, there's people already over here. Okay, so somebody turned it on but didn't finish it. Okay. I've noticed with this little group that I'm with here in this area, this is like a... what's the word I'm looking for? Perpetual battle area where there's just always fights going on. Ooh, this is kind of loud, huh? Let me turn down my... There we go. But, yeah, these little perpetual battle areas where there's always little battles like this going on. Sometimes people have no clue what they're doing. They just kind of, yeah, I know. I never got into the whole Air Bud thing. Yeah, I mean, I heard, because I remember the first one, it was kind of, you know, one of those novelty movies where it's like, hey, the dog plays basketball. And I was like, oh, I guess that's interesting. Very obviously a children's movie, but yeah. I never watched it. It seemed like one of those really kind of like super low budget, cheesy kind of movies. But it's a kids movie, so you know that if it's on TV, kids are gonna probably watch it, and I'm sure there's been plenty of Air Bud DVDs and stuff sold. So yeah. Speaking of movies, everybody's freaking out about the whole Little Mermaid thing. I think that's kind of stupid. I really do. Like, there have been people on, again, this is on Twitter, so it's not like the real world. It's yeah, nobody really cares what's said on Twitter. It's kind of just stupid. But, yeah, apparently there's a handful of people out there who are upset that a black woman was chosen to play Ariel in the live-action Little Mermaid movie. I'm just like, what? It's like it's suddenly they care about the actual story, and oh, you know, in the original story she was white, and I'm like, so when did you suddenly start caring about the integrity of a story that's being turned into a movie? It just seems so stupid to me. It's like suddenly they're just like, yeah, you need to stick to the story. You're never gonna go watch that movie anyway. Why? I don't get that. See, that's the people who speak so much about it are people who are just never even gonna watch the movie anyway. It's like, why would you even care? You were never going to go watch that movie anyway. But suddenly you're worried about, you know, a young black woman playing Ariel. I don't think it matters. At least in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it matters. But I think it matters in the sense that I did see that video and I shared it on Twitter about how it's like a collection of videos of young black girls watching the clips that have been released of the movie so far. And it's like as soon as they see that Ariel's black, they're like, oh, and it surprises them. And they're happy about it. And I'm like, that's cool, man. And so, you know, just to see all, and they're all, of course, younger girls. There was an older girl in there, too, who must have been probably about 18 or 19. But even she was like, hey, that's awesome. But yeah, it was mostly some younger girl. She's like, oh my god, she's brown like me. And I was like, that's cool, dude. Oh, and they also mentioned their hair. She was like, wow, and look, she's even got the hair and everything. And I was like, that's actually really neat. That's cool. So for those people, it matters. But as far as I think that the people who are arguing, trying to pose the argument as, oh, well, in the story, in the original story, he was white. The people who are doing that are just kind of vaguely admitting that they're a bit racist. Because it's like, dude, so many books have been made into movies, and there are always things here and there that are just not the same as in the book. That's Hollywood for you, man. It's always been like that. It's, you know, the movie is never 100% accurate to the book. It just isn't. So little things like that are going to change. Oh, wow, that was lag. And in this case, I don't see it as a problem. I really don't. I think it's fine. Like I said, I think it's just dumb that so many people are getting upset about that. And again, the weird thing is that the only people I see, and again, this is Twitter, so take that for what it is. But yeah, the people on Twitter who are getting mad are like middle-aged white dudes. It's like, really? You're gonna get mad about it? Because I can tell you right now, dude, most children are not gonna go to this movie and think, well, in the original story, they were supposed to be white. Daddy, why is he black? That's not gonna happen. You know, children are gonna go and watch this movie and just be like, oh, cool, let's go watch The Little Mermaid. That's it. That's all they're gonna think. They're not gonna care, really. Okay, I'll say this. Most young white children will say that they don't, you know, that it doesn't make a difference to them. Because I think most of the younger kids nowadays, at least here in the States, thankfully, they've grown up in a society that appears to, at least to them, to be more inclusive. They weren't around, you know, back in, you know, the 50s and the 60s when, you know, it was very apparent that certain people didn't get certain roles because of their skin color. My time went back to sleep. See, that's why I don't want to stream. Because you come and you show up for like 5 seconds and then you leave. It's like, what's the point of even streaming if you're just going to leave? That's why I don't pay attention to Dre when he's like, stream, man. But yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I was talking to one of my friends who she's got kind of a unique situation. It's her and her husband, they're both in their 40s. They're white people, but they adopted a little black girl. And they have... Ooh, wow, that was a lot of shooting right there. And she's like... She was really happy that they made Ariel black because, again, she's raising a black child, whereas I guess that's a very unique situation where, and she's trying really hard. She's like, you know, the few times I've spoken to her about it, she's been like, yeah, I want to make sure that, you know, my little girl, you know, doesn't forget her roots. She knows who she is, who she comes, you know, where she comes from, and all this other good stuff. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And she's the person who actually forwarded the video to me that I was talking about earlier. So I thought that was kind of nice. And she said that her kid reacted the same way. And I was like, that's good, man. It's awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I guess because I've grown up in Texas, and here we just have people of every color, every background you can think of. And so that whole idea of, oh well, this person can only be played by a white person or whatever, it just didn't really happen here. It wasn't a thing here. Now mind you, I'm in South Texas, so that probably plays a role too, because I know when you go up in North Texas, that's where a lot of white people are. But the white people who live down here, that I think that's probably the reason why I know for a fact that I'm at least a little sheltered when it comes to racism that exists here in Texas. Because, again, here in this area, in this southern part of the state, we've always had a mix of different races here. It's never been like predominantly white or predominantly Hispanic or predominantly black or Asian or any of that. And so we were just always used to mingling together. We never, the whole race thing just didn't really exist for us. And I'm actually, because of that, I'm actually really glad that I grew up in this part of the state. Because, yeah, there are definitely parts of the state that just are not friendly. In fact, the place that I had mentioned before to you guys was, I think it was Beaumont, like in the Beaumont, Texas area. It's like right on the eastern side of the state, like east of Houston. So yeah, it's kind of on the fringe, like right where it borders with Louisiana. And yeah, there's like a little cluster there of a few like smaller towns. In fact, at least one of them is referred to as a sundown town, which is kind of insane that anything like that even still exists today. But yeah, racism dies hard, man. What is my race? I have no clue what my race is anymore. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I am 100% a mutt, because I'm not white. I mean, I guess if you look at my background, I've got a lot of Spanish blood in me, so I guess you could say I'm like Southern European. But I also have Native American blood. I've also got blood from South America, and even some Asian blood, which is normal because a lot of the Native Americans, pretty much, it's thought that all the Native Americans that ended up here in the U.S. were originally from places like Japan and Eastern Russia. So that makes sense. Yeah, because my sister did one of those. What's your natural hair color? It's like a very it's like a black, but it changes color. Yes, my hair actually does change color with the seasons, which is something people kind of freak out about. But now, as I'm getting older, of course, I'm getting gray and stuff now. I still thankfully have a lot more black than I do gray, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, when I was younger, my hair was like really, really dark. Really dark and really thick. And even now, if I were to let it grow, it would still be thick, but I just don't like having long hair anymore. which makes sense because a lot of people from South America, from Spain, and Native Americans tend to have thick, dark hair. But even then, like I was saying, my sister got one of those DNA tests done, and she and I obviously we have same parents. We're not like half siblings or anything. We're full siblings. So I figure whatever her DNA tests come back as far as like her heritage and whatnot, I'll probably have the exact same thing. So yeah, I'm just kind of going based on what she had. Of course, everybody's always got like little tiny percentages of other areas in there. I think there was like 1% Irish and like 1% English. You know, just kind of very very minute numbers. Like somewhere along the line, way back in the past, with your ancestry and all that, it's there's bound to be some ancestors back there that were from different parts of the world and stuff. And that's kind of some of the little 1%. Like I said, we've got Irish blood, Scottish blood, English blood, but again, those are all very small percentages. You're a chameleon. No, I actually know why my not only that, but I don't think I've ever told you all this, but my eyes change color. Yeah, my eye color changes. Again, it's usually seasonal. But it also depends on my activities, too. And I've actually told that to people who are like, your eye color can't change. And I'm like, that's actually a real thing. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, your eye color. I mean, pretty much anybody's eye color can actually change. But it's usually not, it's not like you would go from like having like brown eyes to like blue eyes or anything like that. That's not how it works. It's usually a different shade of the same color that you have. Like I generally have like brown, black eyes, but especially during the summer months, my eyes will turn a hazel color. But it usually depends on how much sun I get. Because a lot of people don't know this, but obviously the more that you're outside in the sun, the more melanin gets produced by your body, and your melanin actually affects your eye color as well. And again, like I said, it's not like a massive drastic change, but it's noticeable. Because when I was a kid, when I was a child, I had like dark brown eyes, and then as I've gotten older, my eyes started changing color. They started changing to hazel. And now they just kind of go back and forth. His eyes that turn gray and brown. Yeah, that'll happen. And like I said, it usually, as far as it was explained to me, it usually has to do again with how much time you spend outside in the sun. And again, since I was a big time tennis player when I was a teenager, and that's when my eyes started really, really changing colors. So I was like, oh, well, that explains it. Because my skin was darker, obviously, because I was outside all the time getting tan. This ship actually isn't half bad, although I don't like really bringing this type of ship here. And Dreadnought got obliterated. But yeah, it's actually, from what I understand, it's actually not that unusual. But for most people, again, like I said, the change is so subtle, you probably wouldn't even notice it. Unless you, like, really kind of keep an eye on it. And I think that's really the only reason why I really noticed it. Is because, I mean, obviously, you get up in the morning, you go, you wash your face, whatever, and you look in the mirror. So you look at yourself at least once a day. And I noticed that over a period of time, I was like, what in the hell is going on with my eyes? And I brought it up to my doctor, and they're like, They're like, yeah, that could happen. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, it's not super common, but it's not unheard of. And that's what he's the one that told me. He was like, yeah, sometimes if your melanin levels change, like if it gets a little, like if especially like in the winter time, generally when there's not as much sun in most places, usually your eyes will get with some people their eyes will get a little lighter, with other people it'll get a little darker depending on where you are. Since I've been shape-shifting, nah, I look pretty much the same. Yeah, this is definitely not my favorite ship to bring here. At least not for this fight. This is a good ship, though. I'm only hanging around just so I can get the extra little bonus. Oh, this dreadnought's going down. Thing got obliterated. There's just too many of us here. I actually like coming here, like usually in the middle of the night. Like if I wake up in the middle of the night, which is often, I'll come here in the middle of the night, and there's only like 5 or 6 of us here. But here right now, there's like, how many people are here? Let me check. Oh, I'm in battle. It won't let me check when I'm in battle. I gotta say, there's at least 15 of us here. No, I'm not from Area 51. I'm just from East Texas. Okay, please don't throw me in battle. There we go. Oh, yeah, there's actually 15 of us here. There's only 2 people over in the other map. So I was right, 15 of us. School reel. What is that? What is a school reel? Are you misspelling the word there? Or? We were teasing somebody earlier in Star Trek chat. This guy kept getting upset because he was losing, because they were going to have downtime in the game to fix some stuff, and it had been happening several days in a row because we just had a patch, like a major patch. So with MMOs and you get major patches, usually there's at least a few days of downtime. Few hours here and there, and this was like the 3rd day in a row we'd had downtime. So he was getting mad because he's like, yeah man, I keep losing time in the game because they keep bringing it down. And he kept spelling losing with 2 O's, so he was saying loosing. And we just kept screwing with him over that because it wasn't like a typo. He kept doing it over and over and over again, so you knew it was like embedded in his head that was how you spelled the word. And so we started kind of teasing him a little bit. And finally, I just came right out and said, dude, that is not how you spell losing. He's like, why are you getting upset about that? I said, I'm not upset. It's just that I've seen you, I've seen you misspell the word like 6 straight times. So obviously you think that's how it's spelled, but it's not. It's... A typo is one thing, but when you do it 6 times in a row, obviously you think that's how it's spelled. Homegrown little son, African American with blue. I've seen that. Yeah, back over in Africa, there are kids there. Every now and then they'll be born with just like these radiant blue eyes. I've seen a few of them with really really blue eyes and others with green eyes, which is unusual. It's not, obviously, like I said, not unheard of. But it's not normal. Well, I wouldn't say, well, even that sounds bad. Not necessarily. It's not common. There we go. To say it's not normal makes it sound alien. No, it's not. It's not a very common thing. But I've seen that too. In fact, one of the most famous pictures in the world was of a little girl. I believe she was from Egypt. She was from somewhere in northern Africa, and she had dark skin, and she was like covered in like this colorful clothing, but she had like these radiant blue eyes, almost like if I remember correctly, it was like a blue greenish color. It was really really pretty, and it was taken, I think, back in like 1989 or 1990 or so. It was some time ago. In fact, let me see. I think it was I think it was a National Geographic picture. Let me see. National Geographic. Oh, she's from Afghanistan. I remember her being from Northern Africa. Okay. Oh, and it's from okay, yeah, Afghan girl from 1985, National Geographic cover. Yeah, they actually found her, and they took another picture of her as an update. So obviously, it's good that she's still around, especially considering everything that's going on over there. Yep, here she is. There's the original. Oh, wow. Yeah, her eyes are amazing. Or I'll actually send you the link if y'all want to look at it. Because right at the top of the page, it shows her as she looks now, which obviously she's much older. And you scroll down just a little bit, and there's the original picture. And I'll send that to y'all over here. There it is. If you want just the actual pic, please be respectful of copyright. No, I'm not going to be respectful of your copyright. Screw you. Now that you've said that, I'm going to absolutely 100% steal this picture. It's like, yeah, don't steal our picture. Oh, well, I'm taking it now. Hold on. Let me go back to the website here. Definitely taking you. Can't stop me. Okay, there you go. There's the cover photo. Apparently, she was a refugee. But yeah, eye colors like that, you just don't see them all that often in parts of the world like that where skin tones tend to be darker. You just don't see them that often. Usually, you'll see like blues and greens and stuff. Usually up in the northern areas, like Northern Europe or in Scandinavia. You know, that's where generally their eyes tend to be blue or green. But every now and then you'll get a little something like that. Yeah, it's like I was saying, back in the day, this was one of the most famous pictures. I remember seeing this picture when I was very, very, very young, and was like, "Wow, looks really just." It's if I'm not mistaken, I believe this picture itself, I think, won a Pulitzer Prize. That's how famous this photo is. Let me see if I can find more info on it. Oh, here we go. Who photographed her? Photographer Steve McCurry. Gained national fame as an African refugee girl. Photographer Steve McCurry's photograph of her with piercing green eyes was published on the cover of National Geographic. McCurry found her again in 2002. Oh, wow. So the original photographer, Steve McCurry, went back and found her himself. That must have been interesting. Yeah, that poor woman. You can tell that all the conflict and everything that's over there in Afghanistan over the past few decades has really taken its toll. Like, she looks like she's really sick of everybody's shit. She's like, I just want to live, man. Just leave me alone. Poor girl. You've seen that photo? Yeah, it's an extraordinarily famous photo. It's been printed and reused and reproduced all over. Like, every now and then there will be a photo that just it becomes world famous, and this is one of those photos. Another photo like that is, I believe it was on the cover of Time magazine a long time ago, and it was in one of my photography books, and I think I still have the book. But it was of a little girl who was completely naked, but she's covered in napalm. And I believe, was that Vietnam? I think it was either Vietnam or Cambodia. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it's like this horrifying picture. It's her, she's completely nude and she's like running down this road and there are other children around her, but she's like covered in like in napalm. If you don't know what napalm is, it's yeah, it's horrible stuff. And she's like, of course, like crying out in fear and pain. It's a harrowing picture. That's another one that's very very famous. In fact, let me see. Was it Napalm? Yep, her name is Napalm Girl. She's still alive too. Her name was Fan Tai Kim Phuc. Or I shouldn't say was, it is. She's still alive. Yeah, here it is. You can actually, I'll actually link it. But again, like I said, it's a pretty harrowing picture. It can be hard to look at. So yeah, I mean, it's not like it's not like her flesh is like falling off her body or anything, but it's just a, like I said, it's a very scary, harrowing picture. Let me see. Yeah, June. Oh, here we go. June 8th, 1972. Kim Phuc, center left, running down a road naked near Tran Bang after a South Vietnam U.S. Air Force napalm attack. Oh, I didn't know this. She's actually Canadian now. Huh. Yeah, she became a Canadian citizen back in 1987. I did not know that. Yeah, Vietnam War, dude, was horrible. Just absolutely horrifying. Isn't it weird how we went from Airbud to Napalm Girl? It's kind of insane. Insane how that happens. Yeah, there's a lot of famous photos like that out there that are just you just remember them. It's like you see them and they're just like wow. And not necessarily wow as in like, oh my god, it's amazing. Wow as in oh my god. Seeing photos like that is what really got me into photography when I was younger. Still love photography. But yeah, seeing stuff like that was just like holy crap. Because you can tell there's like a whole story in that photo. Your comment? Brown, hazel, gray, blue, and green eyes. Can somebody get red eyes? Yes. There are people who are albinos, and they often have red eyes. The only thing is albinos, obviously, they also have to deal with having absolute like ghost pale white skin. Not only that, but most people who are like actual, I guess they would refer to them as true albino. Um, they not only do they have very very light skin, almost translucent in at times, but they often have red eyes, and they also often have white hair, like absolutely 100% white hair. And the interesting thing is the gene that produces albinism is not limited to any one particular race. In fact, there are black people in Africa who were born albino. In fact, I forget who he is, but it was a little boy he was born albino in Africa, and unfortunately, the people originally in his area where he lived they thought he was cursed. They thought he was like a devil or something, and so obviously they treated him like an outcast, which is horrible. And obviously there's nothing wrong with him other than the fact that he's albino. But yeah, I've actually seen albino in real life. We don't see them out here that often because it is very sunny, and when you have very, very pale skin like that, just stepping out in the sun is not great. Those people burn very easily, so they don't tend to stay outside very much. Yeah, poor little dude. Oh, we were talking about you earlier, Moni, about how you wanted to be a cop. Man, there are a lot of enemies here. Oh, crap, he's gonna blast me here. That hurt a little bit. Moni's like, I'm surrounded by blue cheese. I don't need to look at it anymore. Man, there are a lot of people here, too. I guess it's just a busy day in the game today. Yeah, people are busting out the big stuff here now, huh? Yeah, it's usually not that busy. And I think, again, the reason why it's probably a little busier here in the game than usual is because, again, like I mentioned earlier, we just got a patch. And that's just how MMOs are. People will play for a little bit, and then they'll quit, and then when a new patch comes out, they'll come back and check out the new content. Ooh, this is gonna hurt. At least I got him. I just wanted to make sure I destroyed him. Yeah, I'm a little more weary of getting popped really hard in this ship, simply because it's not really built to take a lot of damage. Like a lot of the other ships that I play, they're virtual tanks. But this one, it's very much a glass cannon. Like it can hit pretty hard, but it can't just sit there and take a lot of damage like a lot of my other ships can. Yeah, this one just does a ton of damage. Nope. You know, if you all ever did want to play Star Trek Online, now's a good time to start because they're actually having an event right now where you can earn a T6 ship. And it's actually a nice looking ship too. It's a little small, but it's cool looking. It's a science ship. And I tend to like science ships more than I like ships like this. Yeah, this is a pew-pew ship. The science ships tend to be more control-type ships. Where you just annoy your enemies until they die. I heard it's not that bad being a cop over in certain European cities or European countries. Oh, I don't. Maybe Moni doesn't know, but I think that lady next door, I think she died, dude. Wow, I did not expect to kill all three of them like that. Holy crap. Oh man, that was harsh. Ooh, okay, yeah, I got popped hard there again. But yeah, I think the lady next door died because like a week ago, they called the ambulance. They called an ambulance for her, and then like they were there for a little bit. Um, they didn't take her to the hospital though at the time, but like the very next day, her some of her family came over, and they basically took her to the hospital. She didn't look like she was in very good shape at all, but they took her to the hospital, and I hadn't seen her since then, since that day. So it's been about a week. And then yesterday one of her kids came by, and I guess one of her daughters was staying there because I knew somebody was there next door, but it wasn't her. And so I figured it was like the daughter or somebody, because the daughter had been staying with her for some time. Oh wow, they ran away. But yeah, the daughter had been staying there looking after her dogs and stuff. And one of her other kids came by, and they were outside, so I could hear everything they were saying. And he said something, and then she immediately started getting really, really upset, like hardcore upset. And he was really upset too. So I was like, oh crap, I think she's dead. Because again, she still hasn't come back. So good chance that she didn't, yeah. Because she'd even volunteered to me that she had some medical problems, and obviously some of her kids were not helping her situation just because they stressed her out so much. I'm like, yeah, you can't just keep dealing with that stuff when she gets to be her age, because she, I think, is like 58, 59. Simone, your first arrest? What? First arrest? What are you talking about? Oh my god, I'm stuck on the rim. Come on, get off the rim. I'm stuck on the rim. There we go. Well, he was here a couple of weeks ago, and he got arrested again. He hasn't been. He came back one more time. I was like, oh god. He came back like one more time, but apparently he was just picking up clothes, and I haven't seen him since then. So I have no clue where he is. Yeah. Again, remember, I don't really speak to these people. Like I said, the only reason why I even came to know them was because of all the stuff that was going on. That's the only reason. And I'm not saying they're necessarily bad people or anything, but usually if you only come into contact with people because bad stuff is happening, it's like, well... And again, that the woman herself, she was never mean to me. She was never rude or anything like that. She was actually a very nice woman. But like I said, the whole thing with Jerry was just, ugh, this is horrible. I hated it. I hated it so much. You all know. You all heard me complaining about him on other streams. He was just so annoying. It's like one of those things where it's like you just want it to end. It's like, dude, just please, just stop. Oh. I think I'm going to leave this area because he's just one-shotting everything. So it's like, what's the point of even staying here? Oh, I think he's leaving. Okay, good. Yeah, get out of here, dude. I don't want to be with you. I want at least some challenge. Did I wash my favorite cover? No, I've not been to the laundromat. again because I don't use the laundromat here anymore. Oh crap! Of course he would leave right when this happens. This is going to be a little hard for me. This is going to hurt. I gotta kill this thing. Come here, you. There we go. Yeah, I gotta take the little ones out first. No! Of course the ship blows up right next to me. Come on, get away, get away, get away! Okay. And yes, an exploding ship can actually damage you. I didn't even watch the game. I was gonna watch the game, but then you spoiled it. Because I have, there's like this NFL package thing that you can get. It's like really cheap. The only problem is you can't watch the games live, but you can watch them all on replay directly on the internet from NFL Network. So I was like, oh, well, that's actually not so bad because most of the games I don't watch live anyway. So I was like, well, let me just try to avoid talking to people and then, you know, and go watch the games in full when I have a chance. And so that's what I did for the Thursday night game. I got to watch the whole replay and it was actually pretty good. And then I was, no joke, I was maybe 5 or 10 minutes from going and turning on the Cowboys game. And then you made that comment and I was like, really, dude? Just ruined the game for me, man. Well, it's pretty hard to throw a ball when you've got a broken finger on your throwing hand. Yeah, I don't understand why people are like, oh, dude, it's not easy to throw a ball when you've got a broken finger on your throwing hand. It's just not. Yeah, and if he would have stayed in the game, he would have definitely damaged it even more. Because again, they just signed him to a huge contract. I mean, do you really want to ask your quarterback who you just signed to like a 4-year contract for something like $100 million to go out there after he already has a broken finger and ask him to damage it even more? You know, for the possibility of maybe winning the game. And then he's going to have to be out for a certain number of, you know, months because he has to go get surgery on it now. And, you know, like, you don't do that, man. I think the reason they booed mostly is because it feels like this season has been happening over and over and over again for the past several years. It's like they'll have a good team, they'll have a good preseason, and then they'll come in like the first couple of games, and just like that, Dak gets hurt, and it's like, well, there goes the season. Because that happened a couple of years ago too when he broke his ankle. It was like what, week 3 or 4 when he broke his ankle. And that basically, for all intents and purposes, ended the season. They're just sick of it. I mean, because how often can something like that happen? And the thing is it happened with Romo too. It happened a lot with Tony Romo because again, it would be, that's how Dak got his chance. Is in the last preseason game of Dak Prescott's rookie season, Tony Romo was in, and he got, somebody fell on him, and he ended up breaking a bone in his back. And then it was like, well, here we go again. We're gonna have a a hurt quarterback all over again. This, like I said, this season has been happening over and over again for the Cowboys for so long now. It's like, can we please have a season where none of our major players have to deal with any major injuries? It's been like that for so long. And that's how it always ends up going. I actually think the Cowboys should go look at Kellen Mond, the guy who used to play for Texas A&M. He was on the Vikings for a couple of years, but they released him. Thank you for the subscription, Lord Mamunga. But yeah, I think they really should look at Kellen Mond, simply because he's young, he's quick, he's got a good arm, and he'll probably pick up the offense pretty quickly. Because I just hate to say it, but Cooper Rush, yeah, you're not going to win many games with Cooper Rush. You're just not. I'm sorry. I'm sure he's a decent player, but yeah, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that little something that makes him special. He's just kind of like, he's your typical vanilla backup. There's nothing special about him. Kind of want to go over here. But yeah, they should. I think they really should take a long, hard look at Kellen Mond, because he's still available, I believe. Or at least he was when I heard that Dak got hurt. Somebody may have picked him up already. Lions fans were fighting each other because you didn't win game 1. Yeah, I don't think y'all... I haven't really paid much attention to the Lions in the preseason or anything, so I have no clue if their team is good or not. Guys, why are you all attacking them? I have my wingmen here and they like run off and go attack somebody I'm not even attacking. They're not the smartest guys. Of course, attacking a cruiser isn't that easy. No, no, no! You don't get it. No, no, get away. It's my asteroid. Yeah, I have no clue who's even playing for the Lions anymore. I mean, because your all's old quarterback went off to the Rams. First season, won himself a Super Bowl. It kind of proved my point about him, about Matthew Stafford, is he actually is a pretty good quarterback. Yes, he still turns the ball over a lot, but you're going to get that with a gunslinger-type quarterback. You put him with a half-decent team and some good coaching, he's going to win a Super Bowl, and that's exactly what he did. Indiana close to Chicago or Ohio. Been waiting for your item from China for 1 full month now. I have no clue. Is that where it's saying it is, or what? You should just be happy that your package is going to arrive at all. Especially because over in China, they're still dealing with a lot of stuff having to do with COVID. They still do lockdowns and stuff over there in China for COVID. From what I understand, they're like super hardcore over there. They'll like if somebody even, if they even get an inkling that somebody might be sick, they'll take everybody that lives in the same building as them, not just the same apartment, but the same building, like entire buildings, and they will force them to isolate for 2 weeks. Even if they've not tested positive, they will still force them to isolate, which is kind of insane. I mean, because in those buildings, because in some of those tenement buildings they have over in China, there are literally hundreds of families living in those places. So can you imagine, just, you know, because one person might be sick, that they're forcing, you know, possibly a couple hundred families to just stay home. And they don't just force you to stay home, they will literally go and like board up your door and put locks on it so you can't leave. Where's your $40 item? Let me order from China, man. It's gonna take a little while. Oh, is this the new ship? What is this? I haven't actually seen the new ship up close. I think this is one of the new ships. It's so goofy looking. It looks like a freighter. What is that? That looks so weird. It looks like a freighter. It doesn't look like your average kind of Star Trek stuff. I mean, it looks cool, but it's just, you don't expect to see these out here in battle. Oh wow, we almost have control of the whole place. We're getting close. It looks like an oil freighter. Ukraine just passed the Oskil River. It's good. The most hilarious thing about this is that it's hilarious, but it's also something that we should all kind of be happy about, is that Russia kind of just stomped on into Ukraine like, yeah, we're gonna win in like 3 days, and they're getting absolutely obliterated right now. And apparently one of the biggest reasons they are losing as bad as they are is from one of the weapons that we are giving the Ukrainian military. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's some sort of... basically, it's like... You've seen those trucks that have missiles on them? Well, these particular missiles are a little bit different. They are like AI-guided missiles. It's kind of insane. And so they're very, very accurate. Like super accurate. Like within a meter accurate. And... so what they're able to do is the Ukrainian military can get to a certain position set up, which only takes like a few minutes apparently, and then find their target from information that is given to them by the US and launch the missile and then pack up and be gone like miles away by the time the missile hits. So even if the Russians tried to retaliate, the truck would be long gone at that point, so it wouldn't matter. And I'm like, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that one weapon, and apparently they only have like 20 trucks that have that weapon in the entire country, but they are absolutely annihilating the Russians with it. It's exposing the Russians so bad. It's almost hilarious. Almost hilarious. Because I actually feel bad for some of the Russian soldiers who just got conscripted and they actually don't want to be there, but they don't have a choice. It's like either you go to war or you go to Siberia. Yeah, I feel bad for some of them. Because I'm still seeing videos coming out of Russian soldiers who just gave up, who gave themselves up to the Ukrainians, and a lot of the times the Ukrainians will be like, hey, you want to call your mom? And a lot of them are just kids. So they're like, yeah, sure, I want to call my mom. And they'll call their mother. And they'll tell her straight out, look, I surrendered. We were outmatched. And The Ukrainians are actually treating me pretty good, all things considered. I mean, they have to because he's a POW. And POWs, you do have to follow certain international law, or else you get in trouble. The rocket blew up the tank from miles away. Yes, that one weapon, it's one of the biggest weapons, or one of the best weapons, I should say, that we're giving Ukrainians. And like I said, they're using it so damn well. And that's progress. It's taking forever. Is that other one going? I think we're missing one. Hold on. I checked something. No, this one's progressing too. Okay. It's just taking a long time. Yeah, if you're wondering what I'm looking at, these little things, they're like little pull tabs. You have to pull them out from here. And once they're out here, you have to keep them out here so they keep progressing. Wow, I don't think this is... Oh, that's why. This one was not pushed all the way. Oh, somebody messed that up. I guess this sepsis person didn't realize that this wasn't pushed out all the way. And so that's what I was like, it shouldn't be taking this long with all four of them out. The flying camera Jones. Yeah, Ukraine is actually, just in this past week and a half or so, they've gained a lot of ground. And I was, like I was saying earlier, it would be something amazing if not only did they get all of their land back, but it'd be awesome if they actually took some from Russia. And it kind of seems fair, though, because I don't know if y'all remember, but back in, what was it, 2014 or so, Russia forcibly took Crimea from Ukraine. It's basically a region in southern Ukraine, and they just took it. And it's like, okay, no, but they're like, well, what are you going to do? We're Russia. We'll destroy you. We'll annihilate you. And in order to avoid war, the leadership at the time was like, okay, fine, take it. And they just let Putin take it. Which is why a lot of people are saying that's probably why he thought he could just roll into the country and do it again. But at the time, apparently in 2014, they had leadership installed that was very kind of they were like pushovers, and they didn't really want to have anything to do with Russia in a negative way, and so that's why they just let them take Crimea. But this time around, they had Zelensky, and Zelensky's like, no, I'm not giving up any of our land. Russia would do, you don't understand. They are deploying pretty much everything they have over in Russia right now. There's really not much else that they can do. Oh man, are we going to be able to get this one? Oh look, this one's not even counting down too. We're going to start pushing it back. Come on, guys. Yeah, this thing's not counting down. There we go. I wouldn't even say he's necessarily a politician. I look at him more as just a leader, just a straight up leader. I know that he has to deal with politics because of his position as prime minister, but just as a leader, he's just like, wow. That he is, I mean, seriously, he is probably going to be Times Person of the Year, easily. Not that that really means a ton, but still, you know what I mean. But yeah, he's had such a backbone in this whole thing. Whereas other people would just bolt and leave, he's like, nah, man, I'm staying. So you gotta hand it to him, man. He was, you know, like I said, a lot of people would have just left and abandoned their people. And I think that's the only reason why Ukraine is still in this. Because if Zelensky had left, then I think a majority of the military would have been like, well, our leader left us. So what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here and get killed? Or am I just going to leave myself? and run over to another country and be a refugee. He was originally a comedian. Yes, he was originally a comedian. Interestingly enough, comedians, for some reason, tend to make pretty good political leaders. I was actually talking to somebody about that once, and I said, isn't it kind of strange that comedians tend to be actually pretty good leaders when it comes to, actually leading a country? And they told me something interesting. He said, comedians, like good comedians, tend to be very, very intelligent. And they tend to look at the world a little bit differently than your average person does. Like, they are not afraid to get in and start picking at things and looking at things that are, and you kind of, they sit there and wonder why they are this way or that way. And I think that's kind of what he did. What Zelensky was doing is he looked at the world in that way. And then when he actually got into, the leadership position, he's like, I'm actually going to do something. I'm actually going to, try and make a difference here. And I think that's the biggest reason why he didn't leave. I really do. He was like, no, I'm not doing this. If this country's going down, I'm going down with my country. He showed balls when nobody else would. So that's why I'm completely fine with us giving money to Ukraine. There are some politicians here locally that are just pissed that we're giving so much money to Ukraine. And I'm just like, no, we need to. We absolutely have to give them money. Because again, if Putin were to walk in and just take Ukraine, because he already took Crimea, and if we just went in and just let him take Ukraine, he would not stop there. He just wouldn't. He would absolutely 100% start taking the other smaller countries there in the area. He would do that. That's why it was so incredibly important for Zelensky and the Ukrainians to say no. And that's why I'm perfectly fine with my tax dollars giving them the stuff that they need. I have no problem with it. Yeah, it's one of those situations where it was going to be, it's and again, one of the reasons is that NATO has had a very hands-off approach to it for the most part. Because again, they don't want to have to get into a major conflict with Russia. They just don't. And the biggest reason why they didn't want to is mostly because Russia has nukes. And if we did get into a big conflict with Russia and we started beating them down, which we obviously, looking at the results here, Ukraine is beating them. If someone like the United States were to just go right in and say, okay, let's go, boom, you get the US in there, you get NATO in there, now we're invading Russia, that Putin would say, what, screw it. Let the nukes go. Let's just start nuking people. And I think most of the people who are in charge of the nukes, that sort of stuff, they would probably say no to those orders. But all it takes is maybe like 5 or 6 people to be diehard Putin supporters and be like, yes, if he says to launch the nukes, I'm launching the nuke. And that's all it would take. Now, it is possible we could still shoot those nukes down, but it's not a given. Because all it really takes is like 1 or 2 of them to hit. And we're talking mass devastation. Oh, yeah. That's what he wants. That's Putin's thing. Putin is old school KGB. He wants the Soviet Union to be a thing again. That's why he, over the last several years, like in Belarus, they are technically their own country, but he pretty much owns all the leadership in Belarus. I'm here to say you started 16 minutes ago. Okay. Taking the winter war if NATO was going in. Yeah, and I think that's another good thing, because I know Finland, was it Finland and Sweden? I think it was them two that are now applying for NATO membership. So And the thing is that Putin made it very obvious. He straight up threatened them. He said, if you join NATO, we're going to consider that like an act of war and all. It's like, dude, no. And I'm glad that the leadership of those two countries didn't back down to him, because they saw the same thing. They knew exactly what was going to happen. Is he wants to keep NATO splintered. He wants to keep NATO as more of a, kind of just like, well, let's not piss him off. Let's not piss off Putin. We don't want to deal with a nuclear situation. And that's why he kept doing that. That's why he kept behaving the way that he did, because he knew, just like the Nazis did, or just like Hitler did back in World War II. You go and you take a part of a country here, and again the Allies didn't say anything. He took another part of a country, Allies didn't say anything. He did it again, Allies didn't say anything. It was only once that they went into France that the Allies were like, okay, yeah, we should probably do something. After he had already taken so much other land. And I think that's the playbook that Putin was going for. He's like, let me just see if I can just slowly go over here, and I'll have the nukes in my back pocket, and I'll be like, well, if you don't let me take this, then I'll you have to worry about my nuclear weapons. That's the only bargaining chip he has right now. That's the only thing. Because without nukes, he wouldn't exist anymore. He would not exist. The issue is when it collapses, will he YOLO? I think that there are enough people over there in Russia that still have some sense about them, that when it does finally come to the end, if he somehow, like I said, if he somehow decides to just say, screw it, launch the nukes, I'm hoping that enough people there will say no and just be like, no, we're not doing this. Because there are already people there trying to take him out. He's apparently, from news reports or reports that we're getting out of our CIA assets over in Russia, is that there have already been like 3 or 4 attempts on his life to try and take him out. So he knows that there are people there that do not want him in power anymore. Because if you really think about it, he could just stop all this BS that he's doing, and they could be a really powerful country just as they are. But he wants that Soviet dream back. He wants to be the USSR again. He can't just be happy with having the largest chunk of land mass as a country in the entire world. No, he wants more. Exactly, yeah. The amount of people falling out of windows. That's the old Russian joke there. Oh yes, he accidentally fall out a window and shoot himself twice in the head on the way down. No idea how he did that. Must be accident. I know we make fun of it. It's sad though, because there are people that are dying like that. And not only that, but everybody knows, like, that whole situation with that guy who left the Russia a few years back, and Putin kept sending people after him, and finally they got him, and they poisoned him with that radioactive substance. Ended up killing him. It's like everybody knows that Putin was the one pulling the strings there, but Putin's like, I ain't got no idea what's happening. An accident. One of the rarest radioactive substances in the world just happens to find its way into the underwear of one person you really want dead. Yeah. And in England too. In London, I believe. Yeah, I think it was in London. It's like, that just doesn't happen. That doesn't just happen, man. And again, he's just playing it cool for the press and everything, but it's like everybody knows. Like, when we heard that happen, every single person here in the U.S. was just like, right. Right. You had nothing to do with it? Right. But his whole thing is he said that, and he smiled about it, because his whole thing was like, well, what are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. And he's right. Most people didn't do anything. Oh, my package is here. Give me a sec. I'm going to go pick up my package. It's just right outside. That sounds weird. Picking up my package. Okay. Sorry. Where's my cutter? It's funny seeing how hyped up they made their military equipment to be over the past 2 decades for it to come to this. Yeah, Russia did not spend any money on their military. Or what I'm thinking probably happened, and I'm sure most experts probably feel the same way. Man, my blade doesn't want to come out. Is that any money that was initially supposed to go to their military for things like new equipment and new trucks, uniforms, all that stuff, is that money was allocated for the military, but Putin and all his little cronies, all his buddies, yeah, exactly, it went to all his friends. So instead of actually taking that money and building up his military, which is what he should have been doing, all his homies were like, oh, we'll just take the money. Putin ain't gonna say nothing. So that's what happened. He kind of shot himself in the foot there by just letting his friends have the money. Wow. Oh, this thing's small. Yeah, this thing's a little smaller than I thought it would be. Okay, cool. Put you over here. And 2 more items. Trainer's Toolkit. Nice. So I got the newest Pokemon Trainer's Toolkit right here. And then I also got, yep, Lost Origin Elite Trainer Box. Yep. This is what I was waiting for because I want to open both of these and film them. And then I also got myself a router because I'm building a network and I need a router that I can hook up more devices to. So that's what we got. That Mosin rifles from World War One, because that's all they had. And even then, the number of conscripts that he had to get, something like, I remember reading a story about one of the soldiers that they captured, and they were talking to the soldier, and they were just kind of going through the whole thing of like, hey, how did you come to be in Ukraine, and did you enlist in the military, etc. And the guy was like, yeah, I just got this letter that said I had to report for like some sort of special like training thing. And then like the very next day he's like heading to Ukraine. And that's it. He was like, yeah, I had no idea this is where I was going. They just told me to report somewhere. I got assigned a uniform and I got put into a truck and now I'm in Ukraine. And it was a conscript. Because again, it wasn't he didn't sign up for it. Yeah, there was a school teacher too. There was a couple of school teachers that came right out and said it. They're like, yeah, I'm not a soldier, I'm a school teacher. And I'm here now only because they lied to us. They said we were just going for some like training thing, and now we're here in Ukraine. And they were asking them, like, so you had no idea you were coming here? He's like, dude, none of us did. And there's like a whole group of them. It's like, dude, none of us knew we were coming. The only time that they even figured out that they were actually in Ukraine was like once things started happening. It's like, man, how can you do that to your people, man? Just here, go. Not even tell them. And that's why so many of his people bailed. So much of the military, that's why they're just leaving. They're either giving themselves up, they're dumping all their gear, or they're just going back to Russia. Some of them are even seeking asylum, either not necessarily Ukraine because of everything that's going on, but all the other countries that are right there in that area. Because they know if they just go back to Russia, they know what will happen to them. They'll end up in jail. They'll probably end up at a gulag in Siberia, and they may also do stuff to their families. So a lot of them don't want to go back, which is kind of sad. He's just, he's basically just throwing people out there. Let's go to Allied Space. That's true. Yes, I heard about that too. Like if you were caught protesting, you were immediately, if you were a male, you were immediately conscripted into the military. Just insane. Yes, I heard about that as well. And they sent somebody's mother. Yeah, they sent him something like 12,400 rubles or something like that, which came out to like $120. It was for both male and female. Ouch. They're not letting the women get away either, huh? But that's kind of dumb in and of itself. Because if you get somebody who is openly protesting the war, knowing that they're probably at least going to go to jail, and then you conscript them and you send them into Ukraine with a gun, what do you think that person is going to do? Do you really think that person's going to sit there and shoot at Ukrainians? No, the first thing they would probably do is look for a good opportunity to go and just lay down their gun and be like, hey, I'm giving up, POW, whatever. And then you go and you talk to the Ukrainians and then you tell them stories like this. Yeah, that's insane. That's the first thing I would do. Like if I got conscripted because of something like that, I'd be like, dude, I ain't fighting your war. I'm just giving up. And if anything, now you not only have you lost a soldier who obviously wasn't going to work for you anyway, but now you've lost all their equipment and possibly more. Because like some people that were like in tanks, the people that were running the various tanks, they just gave up and got out of the tanks and left. They just left it there. There have been tanks they said that they have found still running that were just abandoned because none of the people there that are in the military fighting for Russia want to do anything with it. Hopefully they're not using the women like the Japanese. Oh, I hate to say it, but they are. There have been many stories of atrocities of Russian soldiers going in and brutalizing women and doing other horrible things to them, which I won't mention here because I don't want to get flagged. Okay, why can't I shoot that thing? Okay, there we go. But yeah, that is definitely happening. Yeah, not only are they doing that to women, but they are apparently purposely targeting civilians and going after them. Like they're not even trying to hit military targets. They're just killing civilians. Yeah, when you bring in another military like that to just go in and it's like, come on, man. What the... And it bugs me that the Chechens are even willing to do it. But at the same time, they're probably in a similar situation where it's like, well, you either do this for us or we're going to invade your country too. You know, we're going to take you all over and do terrible things to you. So they had to make a decision. It's like, well, maybe if we side with Russia, maybe maybe the Ukraine will fall and we'll be okay. And it's like, that's a terrible thing to even think about because it's like, well, you may put off what is ultimately inevitable. Because I can tell you right now, if Putin isn't stopped here, like I said earlier, if he's not stopped here, he's just going to keep taking more land. Yeah, he's never going to stop until somebody stops him. Just like with Hitler. Hitler would have never stopped. If the UK had fallen, then it was only a matter of time before Hitler would have come to try to take the US. It was only a matter. In fact, there have been several stories out there that I've read where they were, I guess, I don't really want to say unofficial attacks on the US from the Germans during World War II, but there are reports of people encountering like the U-boats, the German submarines, not only along the east coast of the United States, but even in the Gulf of Mexico, like not too far from where I am. In fact, I remember, was it Aransas Pass? Yeah, there's a little beach town not too far from here called Aransas Pass. And apparently there was a story going around there that apparently a ship that had been going through there struck a U-boat that had somehow thought it was a good idea to come into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, that one, I don't know if it's 100% true or not, but, you know, in times of war, people do stupid things. So. But yeah, there was a story going around about a U-boat being spotted here off the coast of Texas, which is a long way from Germany. Hell, it's a long way from Europe. I mean, you really have to try. Either they got really lost, or they knew exactly what they're doing. It was only one of the two things. They wanted to get the U.S. last. I think Japan just had no idea what they were getting into. Yeah, Japan obviously had no intel that the U.S. was developing the bomb. I think if they would have known... Well, even then at the time, let me think. Hold on. I might be getting my timeline screwed up here. Okay, yeah, I don't even think we were developing the bomb at that time. Yeah, this was December 7th, 1941. Yeah, we weren't developing the bomb at that time because it was a 3-year program, and it ended eventually when Japan surrendered. Okay, yeah, we were not developing the bomb at that time. Okay. I think at that point, though, like right after the Japanese attack, I think that's when Einstein signed that infamous letter telling the president that we should develop a nuclear weapon. And then he immediately regretted it once it happened. If Germany had split ties with... What? If Germany had split ties with Germany right after Pearl Harbor, they would have been more successful. What? If Germany had split ties with Germany... I think you mean... What, do you mean Japan? It's like, what? Oh my god, stop shooting me! Oh man, this is one of my tacks, but she doesn't have sweeping strikes. That's too bad. Oh darn, I don't have a science person on my team. Oh crap, I have to heal myself. Well, Japan had very loose ties with Germany, only in the sense that they just really wanted to take over the world. Yay! Look, we got sparklies. Let's go back to the command center. That Enterprise episode was pretty interesting. Which one? Do you mean the... Well, there were actually several episodes in Trek lore that deal with Nazis. Or maybe not specifically Nazis, but the whole fascist kind of thing. Stormfront time-traveling one. Stormfront time-traveling one. trying to remember. There's Stormfront Traveling one. Oh, is that the one from original series? Oh, with Archer. You're talking about Archer. Okay. Because I remember the one from original series. Let me see. Stormfront. Let me see. Prize. Stormfront. It's been a little while since I've watched. Let me see. Oh, season 4, episode 1. Following the destruction of the Zindu. Oh. Okay, so. Oh, okay, I see it here. Okay. Oh, that was a two-parter. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember a ton from season 4 of Enterprise. I'm not saying it was a bad season. It's just that I kind of knew the end was coming, and so I was like, I wouldn't say I was necessarily losing interest, but like I didn't want to get like really into it, knowing that it was going to end. Now that I'm looking at some of the screenshots, now I remember it. There's a prison of war from German truck. Okay, yeah, now I remember this. And it was the oh gosh, it was the Nakul. That's how it was. It was the Nakul that went back in time, and they were the ones who got in with the Nazis. The U.S. was sending boats to the U.K. Oh yeah, we were doing that for a long time, and German U-boats had been sinking some of those ships because Hitler had pretty much kind of offhandedly told us, no, stop supplying the UK, and we're just like, nah, we're gonna keep doing it. And he was just like, fine, I'm just gonna keep sending my U-boats and sinking your ships, and we were like, well, we're just gonna keep sending more ships. That's how the whole merchant marines thing kind of got started. Yamato was the fleet commander during World War II, told the Emperor and the rest of the military that attacking America would be their downfall. As Yamato went to college USA, he said it would be like waking a giant beast. Ah, that's right. Now it makes sense. I remember that. Yeah, the biggest reason why he was saying that or telling Japan not to attack the U.S. is because he knew that if we needed to at the time, we could industrialize. I mean, because we were already very industrialized at the time, but then we could take all of our big companies, like, you know, all the various car companies and Boeing and other companies like that, and just suddenly get them making weapons and, you know, airplanes, you know, and stuff like that, and we could just absolutely obliterate them just because of the sheer size of our resources. And that's pretty much what he was doing. He was like, yeah, that's, you're not, because even if it came down to a war of attrition, Japan was never going to win. It just wasn't going to happen. Where am I even going? Somebody has a boar over here. Oh, okay, yeah, let's go over here. Maybe I should use my staff. Well, they've already killed them all. They're about to clear this. I think I'm going to stay here just until they get the last one down. Just so I can get the little bonus. Come on, get the last ones down, guys. Yeah, and submarines, oh my gosh, they smell amazing, don't they? I've actually had the opportunity to go onto a sub. Not while it, you know, it didn't like go, like, it didn't dive or anything, but it was just like docked. Get to go in there for a little bit, and yeah, it smells amazing. And that's why Just talking to some of the sailors, they're like, yeah, that's a lot of times the reason why we'll surface, and they'll just kind of hang there for a little bit, not only to let people go outside and get a little sun, which is good for you, to get a little fresh air too, but also just to air the place out. Because the filters only do so much. It's like, at some point you got to open a window. I thought it was pretty cool. I also got to go on to the we actually have it here in our city, the USS Lexington, which is a World War II ship. It was an aircraft carrier. We actually have that here in my city, and I've been on that. And I can tell you right now, do not go on it in the middle of summer, because it is effing hot. It is really hot in there. Because again, it's a ship. It doesn't have AC. It's like, no AC here, man. At least not, in the areas that we were in. I'm sure, like, certain areas of the ship may have had some form of climate control, but yeah, just as a retired, permanently docked ship. Yeah. Speaking of people that didn't want to go to war, the pacifists, there was actually a Star Trek episode addressing that, or sort of touching on that. It was I believe it's in the first season. It's called the City on the Edge of Forever. It's one of the best Star Trek episodes ever produced. It is an absolutely excellent episode. Even people who don't watch Star Trek could probably still appreciate it. Oh crap! I gotta run over here now. But yeah, the whole idea behind the episode is that I think it's Spock, Kirk, and McCoy end up back in time, and they run into, oh man, I'm all around. I'm on the wrong side of the map. They end up back in time during the 1940s. But it was like right before the U.S. really got like heavily involved in the war, and they meet this woman who is very much a pacifist, and she doesn't want to go to war at all. She's just like, don't go to war, don't antagonize the Germans, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, the way that her timeline would have worked out, God, they already killed the dino. Is if she had lived, she would have gone on to further her pacifist movement, which would have ultimately backfired, because then it would have become a really popular thing in the U.S. And because it had become so popular, the U.S. didn't prepare for war. It didn't have the troops. It didn't have, the planes, the military. Nothing was ready. And so eventually the Germans, in that timeline, the Germans eventually do go and end up taking over the U.S. And so what they were ultimately forced to do was, there's a situation that she gets herself into where she's like walking across a street and she gets struck by a car. And they already know what's going to happen. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is already how history went down. You're supposed to, she gets hit by the car. And at that point, Kirk is there, and Kirk is like, we have to help her. And McCoy's like, no, you can't. She has to die. Because if she lives, then obviously the pacifist movement becomes a thing, and the Germans eventually take over the U.S. And so Kirk is like, because he wants to help her, but he knows he shouldn't, because, yeah. That's a very terrible way of me describing what is arguably one of the best episodes in Star Trek history. It's one of those episodes, you just gotta watch it yourself. I thought it was a really good episode. Did you also know Japan was going to either use biological bombs or kamikaze attacks to spread the bubonic plague? Yes, they actually did some of that. They did some really odd things during the war. In fact, one of the weirdest things I remember them doing, and this was a real thing, is how did they do it again? Apparently, they were strapping bombs to balloons, like high altitude balloons, and they were using the natural air currents in the upper atmosphere to have those balloons be pushed over the Pacific Ocean with hopes that they would eventually land in the US. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it kind of worked. Apparently there was a situation, I forget exactly, I think it was in Oregon or Iowa, one of those states that's fairly close to the coast there. Apparently at least one of them landed and was found by some people or by some kids, and apparently it actually did go off and it ended up killing like 2 or 3 people. At least that's what I remember. But yeah, it was like this weird thing where they were strapping bombs to balloons and just having them, hoping that they would eventually float over to the US. Which, like I said, it kind of worked. But considering, I think they'd said they'd done like several hundred of them, and only like 2 ever landed. And only 1 ever did any damage, which was what happened to those people. They scrapped the plan after the U.S. dropped nukes. Yeah, I would imagine they probably did scrap most plans after the nukes. We told Pilecki, what? Volunteered to allow himself to be captured by the occupying Germans in order to infiltrate Auschwitz concentration camp. At Auschwitz, he organized a resistance movement that eventually included hundreds of inmates, and he secretly drew up reports detailing German atrocities at the camp, which were smuggled out to Home Army headquarters and shared with the Westerners. After escaping from Auschwitz, Pilecki fought in the Warsaw Uprising of August 1944. There are a lot of crazy stories like that in World War II. I think that's why, because I'm pretty sure I mentioned this to you guys, but I really like watching old documentaries or documentaries just about history. And sometimes if it comes to like things like war, obviously I'll watch those too. And I've seen probably at least 24 various documentaries of various lengths about the war, be it World War I or World War II. And every single time I watch another one or a new one, I always learn something else. Because there are just so many stories like that. You know, just small little things like this that you may not necessarily have even thought about, but it happened. Like there was that story about that woman, I forget her name, but I think she was in France. She would pose, I guess, as sort of like an escort, and she would lure Nazi officers into, I guess, her bedroom or some place like a hotel or something like that with the idea that they were going to get laid. And so they would go with her in there, and then she would murder them. And she did that again and again and again and again, many, many times. The best part of that story, she got through the war. She was not killed in the war. And I believe she actually died not that long ago. She was like in her 90s when she died. I cannot remember her name. But again, it's one of those kind of odd stories that you normally wouldn't, you wouldn't really normally hear about that sort of thing. But then suddenly you just kind of happen upon it, and there it is, and you're like, wow, that's pretty awesome. She would lure Nazis over and then kill them. Let me see. Oh gosh, World War II. Woman who lured Nazis. Oops, I gotta spell war right. Oh, here we go. I think, this is a little bit different than I remember. Maybe there were probably multiple people doing this, but here's one of the stories. This teenager killed Nazis with her sister during World War II. Freddie, yes, her name was Freddie, and Truss Oversteegen Sometimes ambushed Nazi officers with from their bicycles and never revealed how many they had assassinated. Okay, this one's different. This is a different story. So apparently, this young girl and her sister would ambush Nazis and kill them. So this is again, I'd never heard of this. It's one of those weird stories. Freddie Overstegen was only 14 when she joined the Dutch resistance, Netherlands, during World War II, and only a couple of years older when she became one of its armed assassins. Together with her sister and later a young woman named Hannie Schaft, the trio lured, ambushed, and killed German Nazis and their Dutch collaborators. Freddie and her sister Trust, who was 2 years older, grew up in the city of Haarlem with a single working class mother. Their mother considered herself a communist and taught her daughters the importance of fighting injustice. When Europe was on the brink of war in 1939, she took Jewish refugees into her home. Wow, okay, through them as an example. Let's see. In 1940, Nazis invaded the Netherlands. We also glued warnings across German posters. Streets calling men work in Germany. Wow, this is actually an interesting article. So, they would ambush them. This is kind of insane. Oh, well, this woman lived a nice long life, too. She died September 5th of 2018. Maybe this is, maybe Hannie Schaft is the one. I don't know. Well, here, I'll link the article. It's actually a really interesting read. I'll put that in Discord in case y'all are wondering. But yeah, that's a very interesting story. Chichijima. No, that is not the girl that got hanged. That's a different young woman. I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name, but I can remember her face. But yeah, there was a young girl. I think that was a French girl. I don't know. There's just so much information. I'm telling you, it's just insane. You could literally spend like an entire year just reading books on nothing but World War II and still not learn everything. You're describing a movie I saw a long time ago. It was probably based on that story. Because, movies and stuff like that, they've been based on stories from the war. Like, interestingly enough, the movie Inglourious Bastards by Quentin Tarantino, for the most part, it was fiction, but there were aspects in that movie that were actually true. Like, the girl who eventually took over the theater, apparently that was a real woman, and she really did escape from the Nazis and got in with a family that owned that theater, and then when the original owner died, they left the theater to her so that she could take care of it. So that part of the story was kind of based on real life. Hugo Stiglitz. Oh, are you talking about the guy they called the Bear Jew? Was that Hugo Stiglitz? Hold on. Oh, that's an actor. Oh, he was. Oh, okay. So he was an actor in the movie. Incident has the 42nd president of the United States. Chichijima incident. Oh yeah, I remember vaguely hearing about this. This has George H.W. Bush in it. Apparently, he was part of that group, and yeah, several Americans were killed, and some of them were even cannibalized. That's insane. Yeah, that was over in the Pacific when that happened. But that I had mentioned earlier, the Bear Jew from Inglorious Bastards, if I remember correctly, that particular, I mean, the story in the movie is not the way it actually happened as far as I know, but it is based on an actual person. Like the character is based on an actual person that was known as that guy. Let's see. Did Sergeant Search? Oh, let's see. Approaches. Okay. But yeah, from what I understand, it was based on a real guy. So, interesting. Yeah, he was a very big man. But now I'm like all into like, oh, let's go look at more World War II stories. George Elser. Oh, this is one of the guys that tried to kill Hitler. Was a German worker who planned and carried out an elaborate assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler and other high-ranking Nazis. On the 8th of November, 1939, Elser constructed and placed a bomb near the platform from which Hitler was to... Oh, okay, I remember this one now. Yeah, he placed it by the platform where Hitler was to give a speech. And I think, if I remember correctly, the bomb actually did go off, didn't it? But something happened, like either Hitler was late or he left early. I forget exactly how the story went. Let me see if it actually has it here. Let's see, motive plot. Following day next. Elser, Hitler had initially canceled. Oh, here we go. Unknown to Elser, Hitler had initially canceled his speech to devote his attention to planning the imminent war with France, but changed his mind and attended after all. As fog was forecast, possibly preventing him from flying back to Berlin the next morning, Hitler decided to return to Berlin the same night by his private train, with the departure from Munich's main station set at 9:30 p.m. The start of the reunion was brought forward half an hour to 8 p.m. and Hitler cut his speech from the planned 2 hours to 1 hour duration. Yeah, that's how it went down. So he did leave early. Hitler ended his address to the 3,000 strong audience down to 7:13 minutes before Elser's bomb exploded. Yep, Hitler barely escaped that, and it definitely would have killed him. So yeah, he cut his speech short, left early, and then the bomb went off. That's kind of nuts, man. I thought we were playing Star Trek. I kind of want to go film these openings now. I really do. But one thing I can open right here. Or do I want to open this on film? I don't think you guys would even care about this product. I'll probably, if I do film this, I'll put this like on the side channel. Yeah, this won't go on the... Wow, I did not know this has a lifetime warranty. Yeah, I think I will open this just for fun. Put it on the side channel. I'm going to go do my openings, man. He was a bad military planner. He was not very good when it came to planning in his military. There were so many times where his generals would tell him, yeah, this is not a good idea, but he's like, do it anyway. And they were like, but sir, it's not do it anyway. Oh, all right, fine. And then he would get mad when the plan would fail. And of course his generals are not going to say, well, I told you so, because he would have just had them killed. But yeah, that was like a big thing. He made so many mistakes. And again, if he had just listened to his generals, the war could have very possibly gone very differently. Like, especially that whole thing where they went into Russia. They were not prepared for that at all. And even his generals were like, yeah, we don't really have the gear for that. And so sure enough, supply lines got stretched thin. They got stuck in the mud. People started freezing to death. It was horrible. It was all kinds of insanity. What are you doing sending me $1? Please look up Mildred Harnack. Experiencing that. Well, the thing with Russia is, again, using those U.S.-made military weapons, the Ukrainian army is purposely targeting their supply lines, so that if the Russians do get tanks and stuff in, obviously you can't run a tank without gas. So you gotta have gas, you gotta have bullets, you gotta have food. You don't have any of that, then yeah. Let's see, Mildred Harnack, American literary historian. Mildred Millie Elizabeth Fish Harnack was an American literary historian, author, translator, and member of the German resistance against the Nazi regime. After marrying Arvid Harnack, she moved with him to Germany, where she began her career as an academic. Well, she was in a movie. Okay. Her name was Mildred Fish. Career salon. Let's see, literary figure, resistance. Illegal radio transmissions. Leading up to and during the war, Red Orchestra tried to recruit new members, which was difficult due to the ratio of informers to proper recruits in the general populace. The group devised a method to vet potential recruits that would start with inviting them to a meeting with the approach of making the potential recruit believe the group were Nazis and lead the person to reveal their political attitude to Nazism through conversation. Harnack lent books to the potential recruit as a test of their intellect, and there was little chance of winning such people over if they did not understand politics. At one meeting, Fish Harnack held a lecture on Kim by Rudyard Kipling and helped the recruits understand colonialism. Arrest and death. So she was part of the resistance and she helped with recruiting. Arrest and death. On 7th of September 1942, the Harnacks were arrested by the Gestapo at the seaside village of Priela on the Koronian Spit. That's actually what it's called. Koronian Spit. Harnack was sentenced to death on December 19th after a 4-day trial before the Reich... Oh gosh, that's German. I can't read that. Reichskriegerreich. I can't say that. Maybe Moni would have better luck saying this, since you're better with the European languages than I am. It's basically a German military tribunal, is what it is. But that's the word. And was executed 3 days later at the Plötzneys prison in Berlin. Fish Harnack was initially given 6 years in prison, but Adolf Hitler refused to endorse the sentence and ordered a new trial. Ouch. Which resulted in a death sentence on the 16th of January 1943. She was beheaded by guillotine on the 16th of February 1943. While she was in prison, Fish Harnack translated the poem Vermächtnis, bequest by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Her last words were purported to have been Ich habe Deutschland eichen geliebt. Again, I can't read German very well. I love Germany so much as well. She was the only American woman executed on the direct orders of Hitler. Wow. After her execution, her body was released to Humboldt University anatomy professor Hermann Steve to be dissected for his research into the side effects of stress, such as awaiting execution on the menstrual cycle. After he was finished, he gave what was left to a friend of hers who had the remains buried in Berlin's Zeideldorf Cemetery. She's the only member of the Berlin-based anti-fascists whose burial site is known. When Leisner learned of the execution, she wrote the unfinished poem To and From the Guillotine in remembrance of her friend. Man, even Hitler's like, no, kill her. You know, it's bad when he's, you know, how in the hell am I supposed to pronounce that? See, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't know how that goes. I mean, I know it's like Reichskriegsgerich. Is that what it says? Reichskriegsgerich? I'm sure I'm butchering it badly, but but Reichskriegsgerich. Simo Heiha or Heihe is another infamous person from World War II. Now you're gonna make me look this up. Simo, a Finnish sniper. Oh, I've heard of this guy. I've also heard of the Finnish snipers in general. Yeah, apparently when Russia went into Finland, they lost just thousands of soldiers because of the Finnish snipers, because they couldn't see them. Because it was all snow covered and everything, and of course the Finnish were covered in, they were head to toe in white, and they were just absolutely obliterating the Russians as they came in. Often referred to by his nickname as the White Death, was a Finnish military sniper in World War II during the 1939-1940 Winter War against the Soviet Union. He used a Finnish-produced M2830 and a Suomi KP31 submachine gun. Wow, and he lived until 2002. So he was around a long time. Yeah, poor guy. He got shot in the face by a Red Army soldier. Lived. Yeah. Popular culture, injury, achievements as a sniper. Wow. Okay. I'm saying his name wrong, I know it, but all of his kills were accomplished in less than 100 days, on average of 5 per day at a time of year with very few daylight hours. His kill count as a sniper was based on his own reporting, with the confirmations of his comrades, and only those who were verified to be dead were counted. No count was taken when several snipers shot at the same target. Men killed with a submachine gun with Haya as a group leader were not counted. Okay, so these are the ones that they know it was just him. December, let me see, reported December, let me see. So the highest figures from the Finnish Army document counted from the beginning of the war, 30th of November 1939. December 22nd, 1939, 138 sniper kills in 22 days. Let me see. 26th of January 1940, 199 sniper kills, 61 in 35 days. 17th of February 1940, 219 sniper kills. Jesus Christ, man. 20 in 22 days. And then the 7th of March 1940, one day after he was wounded. So this was after he had already been shot in the face. Total of 259 sniper kills, 40 in 18 days. That's a lot of confirmed kills, man. And again, these are the ones that just count him. And it's also specifically saying here that sniper kills in which multiple snipers shot at the same target were not counted. So the number could very well be higher. But when you've got like 2 or 3 people shooting at the same target, it's hard to say exactly which bullet did it. Stone, South Carolina, Finland. Post-war life. And then, of course, if you all don't know who she is, you all have to go look up the Finnish Prime Minister. And her name is... in chat. Yeah, everybody loves her because she's young and attractive. And apparently nobody likes her dancing. Since we're on the topic of Finland, that's why I brought her up. But yeah, nobody likes it when she dances, because apparently you can't do that if you're a world leader. Oh, the submachine gun kills. But yeah, seriously, she's 36, so she is quite young for being a world leader. But yeah, there was like this whole situation where she it was her and like 5 of her friends, and they made a video and posted it on the internet. And they were just dancing. I mean, it wasn't even like a sexual thing or anything. They were just dancing, having a good time, you know, being silly. And apparently some people were like, oh my gosh, how could she do that? I'm like, dude, she's 36. She's not 90. Let her have a little fun, man. Oh, well, she should be running the country. Okay, that's fine. You know, everybody needs to take a break. Just let her have a little fun, man. Jesus. People are weird like that. Okay, now I'm really going to go and open up these packs, because they're like looking at me like, why won't you open me? I'm like, I'm going right now. I'm going to go open things. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to go open these, and I may post a video either later today or tomorrow. Okay, bye.